All right, guys, on YouTube, appreciate it. We're getting ready to start. And we're with you in a second here. Here we go. 10 seconds, face YouTube. 10 seconds. Here we go. 10 seconds. No, 20 seconds? 20 seconds. Okay. All right, here we go. Okay. Got it. All right, here we go. Welcome, guys. All righty, welcome back to Global Sports Broadcasting Network. I'm your host, Cornelius Brad Hanna, your host for this Wednesday sports show right here on Hanna Time. Got a great show for you. Got a 1 hour strong of baseball and some football talk for you. A little aftermath Super Bowl talk, but nothing heavy. We got to move on to the next sports, the next part of the world, our next part of life in 2020 with the sports itself. It's cold. It's a cold winter day in February here inside the studio. I got to keep myself together. Yes, I do. But let's go right into it, ladies and gentlemen. For Pete's sake, Pete Rose wants reinstatement back into baseball for the opportunity, most likely, to be elected into the Hall of Fame. And that's what his goal is, obviously. Great numbers, great career baseball-wise, but he did the unthinkable, gambling on the game itself, which is goes all the way back over 100 years ago to the Black Sox situation for throwing the World Series, taking money, the gambling part of it. And ever since then, baseball's had a strict rule about gambling on the game itself, and all sports have. And Pete did that. So that's big. And trying to get back, he has his reasons. We'll get into that in a little bit. A big trade in baseball, and I say it's robbery. The Dodgers trade for Mookie Betts from the Boston Red Sox, add a few more players to their roster through this. We'll break down that trade. There's a third team involved, the Minnesota Twins, but it's robbery because what the Dodgers got back, what the Red Sox got in return, and for the Twins, not bad. Actually, they improved themselves, but they did give up a lot too. I think the Dodgers stole it. And I don't know how baseball allows these kind of trades to go down, but man, it's amazing what the talent and what's going to happen to the Dodgers in 2020 if it all plays out right. But it sure seems like they got the right roster on the field now. Also, Major League Baseball, NFL, there are a few cities around the country when it comes to sports that their teams actually play in a different state. Following the aftermath of Super Bowl 54, the Kansas City Chiefs, who play in Missouri, but is in a city called Kansas City. It's divided by a line, state line, of Kansas and Missouri. And the metropolitan area is Kansas City on the Kansas side and also the Missouri side. We'll get into other teams, team sports that play in different cities but carry the name of a major city name. Is that okay? Is that acceptable? No cries over that, I guess. But also, there are a few teams that play in a city or claim that they're playing in a city, claim that they're playing in a state, but play in another state. There's a few teams like that. Not a lot, but there actually are. Can you name them? We'll get back to that towards the back end of this show, or the second half of the show. Right now, we're going to get into baseball right away. As just want to make sure I got that right. Okay, so we're live on globalsportsbroadcastingnetwork.com, the live stream. We're live on YouTube. We're also live on Facebook Live, and you can catch and listen to all of it. Watch it right here on Hanna Time. Cornelius Brad Hanna. All right, let's get right back into the first topic is the Pete Rose, the legendary, the hit king, baseball hit king, who has the most hits in the game of baseball, the history of the game. That is a phenomenal record. But he did gamble, and there is consequences for that, and they're devastating. Banned for baseball was what happened to Pete Rose. Getting back into baseball has been a challenge. There's been a lot of outcry. At times, I feel he never should come back, and at times, I feel like, well, what else has been going on in baseball, and why is he being shut out? Now, after the scandalous Houston Astros cheating with this sign stealing and using all the devices and electronics, going above and beyond outside the lines of the game, the integrity of the game, the character of the game, the future of the game, Pete Rose says, well, what I did wasn't as bad as that. That's what he's saying. I don't know about that still. I mean, you still crossed the line no matter what and how you may have gambled on the game itself. He was the manager of the Reds. He said he gambled on his team only to win. We don't know the rest of the story. And that's the part that seems like is a really big reason why the Major League Baseball may know more than what is being brought up. But the bottom line is, Pete Rose, you did gamble on the game. As a member of Major League Baseball, a manager of a baseball team, you still did it, no matter what. I know it sounds like, well, he's on his own team. How reckless is that? Well, in some ways, it is reckless. The way you're using arms in the bullpen. Maybe you're bringing in a guy who shouldn't be out there. You know, maybe there is some endangering of athletes that you're not considering. I don't know how it played out, but if you're looking for reasons of the integrity of the game, did you actually manage those games in the good faith of your ball players, or did you do it in whatever you needed to do to win that big money, that big gamble bet that you had on your team? See, that's the part really that sticks to me. Don't know the truth, the whole entire truth of this, other than he got caught. He knows it. He wants back into baseball. I know he's good for baseball in the way of teaching and helping young ball players to know the game of baseball. But he can probably, and he should be able to do something outside of the game itself, outside the sanction of Major League Baseball, which he has. He has mentored a lot of ball players, Pete Rose, since his ban from baseball. But getting back in and getting to the Hall of Fame, it's big for him. He truly loves the game of baseball. He loves it the way I love baseball. And it probably eats him up every day. But he made a big mistake. So did the Black Sox, who are never been able to get back and reinstated long after death. And this is a strict, hardcore rule and an obligation for a ball player, manager, anybody in Major League Baseball to avoid and prevent and stay away from the gambling scene. Now, does baseball, like other sports, start to think about allowing and associating themselves with gambling legally because of the legal sports gambling in many places around the country and overseas? Now, if they cross the line, baseball doing that, then I have to reconsider that, well, if you're going to allow gambling, then maybe is it okay now that Pete can be brought back in? But still, ball players will not be allowed to gamble on the game just because baseball is associating itself with gambling. It sounds double-edged sword. It sounds two-faced. It sounds backwards. But you really don't want ball players and people on the field or in the front office gambling on the game itself. They may get away with it secretly. I'm sure it's been going on every day in the game itself throughout its history of all sports, probably side bets, whatever it may be. But you cannot allow individuals part of the game gambling on the sport that they're involved in. Even if, I know it's hard to believe and understand, if they do allow and associate to make money on the gambling aspect, like their own sports book or associating themselves with the MGM, which is going on right now. So put that in perspective. It's a lot. What do you feel? Do you feel he deserves it? But back it up. Don't just say, yes, he does. Why does Pete Rose truly belong back in baseball and have the opportunity to be voted into baseball? Just because he gets reinstated doesn't mean he gets voted in. Remember that too. Doesn't guarantee him he gets voted back in, or he doesn't get, well, the voters, the writers for the Hall of Fame can still hold him out of the Hall of Fame. Baseball. Reinstatement means he wants to get back on the ball field, put that uniform on and maybe manage a game. But how do you allow somebody who has gambled on the game back in the dugout? I would be very skeptical on that part, on anybody who does that. But bringing him back to work with ball players, that's okay. If he gets reinstated, he has asked the commissioner of baseball, Pete Rose, Rob Manfred, for reinstatement based on the Astros players getting off scot-free for cheating. Now, think about that. Did Pete Rose cheat? No, he gambled on the game and maybe have put his own ball players in jeopardy health-wise and injuries to win a bet or two. I don't know how many times he has made bets, but did he really cheat the game in the way of the Astros did or the Red Sox? Now, the Red Sox are not clear out of the water on this. We're still waiting, but it looks like baseball is trying to slap some penalties, but not really following through. Ball players around baseball are livid that these ball players on the Astros got caught cheating. They knew about it, and they're getting away with it. Pete Rose doesn't like that. Pete Rose is upset because he didn't do that. And these guys are still allowed to play the game. They should have been banned from baseball like he was. But the fact that they're not banning these ball players like they did with the Black Sox, like they did when Mickey Mantle associated himself with casino gambling. Not that he was going in there and betting. He had his name tied to a casino. And baseball banned Mickey Mantle because it was associating with gambling. But he's been reinstated well before his death, and he got reinstated back into baseball, Mickey Mantle. But he didn't cheat. And the Astros cheated. Ball players cheated knowingly. If they don't know, how do you believe that one? So Pete has a case. I have to give him that. Pete Rose has a legitimate case. If you're not banning ball players for cheating the game, the integrity of the game, the way it's supposed to be played, why isn't he says, allowed to be reinstated back into the game? If you're allowing them to continue to play, I think this is going to be brought up a few times during the baseball season as the Astros play ball games in the new season coming up. As spring training comes ever so closer, we're about, officially with pitchers and catchers, about 2 weeks away. Some of the teams actually have ball players showing up at their spring training site, getting ready for the season. So baseball is starting to get moving now. We got a lot of trades going on. We have a lot of free agents still out there. The talk of the Astros during the regular season, everywhere they go, including the Boston Red Sox, because they got caught also. And most likely there are ball players on the Red Sox that also knew about the cheating that their manager, Cora, was doing. But Pete Rose is not allowed back in. So that doesn't seem fair to Pete. So I am caught in the middle on this. but I believe Pete should not be in. But I believe baseball should ban these ball players from the game itself. Send a bigger, stronger message. Do not keep using Pete Rose as a symbolic of the game itself when now you're allowing others in the game to continue to play from cheating. They were cheating. It doesn't sit well with the fans. And I have a strong belief that this is going to continue to give baseball a black eye because it's going to continue to come up. And it's a negative. Their explanation wasn't even good why these ball players were not banned, suspended. Something that baseball needs to really, and maybe it's too late. Maybe it's too late because they've made their statement. But unless more evidence comes back and there's more about it and more pressure, maybe something has to happen. These players knew what they're doing. Pete Rose knew what he was doing. The Black Sox knew what they were doing. The ball players who took steroids during the steroid era knew what they were doing, but it wasn't illegal. It was being ignored. So baseball cannot continue to turn the other way. Pete Rose is on an island. And maybe the owners of Major League Baseball, the ones that have been around for decades, will not allow Pete back in. And the pressure at the commissioner's office in Major League Baseball has to follow instructions and orders from the owners of Major League Baseball. Pete needs to mend things with owners around baseball and have a strong case. And maybe this gets to be a legal court situation with baseball. Pete may take this further. He cares that much. All right, so keep following this story about Pete Rose. Just a little bit more info about these Houston Astros. Recently, Freddie Freeman of the Atlanta Braves, baseball player. He's one of those ball players that also is emotionally, mentally upset about the Astros scandal. And now knowing more about the Red Sox. He broke down in tears recently about his good friend Chris Medlin, who gave up 4 runs against the Astros and never got his job back. Now, Medlin did play baseball still, but what he meant was it really threw his good friend Chris Medlin back. Getting his job back in that rotation or in that bullpen. That hurts. This is what and why ball players need to be banned from baseball that were cheating with the Astros. And even if there's Red Sox out there that they may be covering up. Maybe Mookie Betts is part of that Red Sox scandal that hasn't come out yet. And maybe that's one of the reasons why. Nobody really knows the truth. I hope baseball doesn't just want to walk away from it and move on, but it's not going to go away. And especially if Pete Rose continues to pop off, asking and wanting, and maybe even going through the court system for reinstatement. Be prepared, baseball. And there's a lot of fans and current and former ball players not happy. This is not going away. Your cheating has affected ball players' careers from cheating. Pete Rose has a case, but I don't know if he gets in. I just think that the baseball needs to suspend or ban the ball players that cheated. I know it's hard. I know it's a crazy, but that is the golden rule in baseball. Speaking about Mookie Betts and the big trade, the highway robbery, I think the Dodgers stole it. And the Red Sox didn't care. The future of the Red Sox is a challenge. The future of the Red Sox We don't know where they're going now. They just traded away Mookie Betts, their MVP, and every year he would be an MVP candidate. He would be. And you traded away an MVP. Why? Because he was going to cost you a lot of money. He was very young. He's got 10 years of great baseball playing in him. Unless he was cheating, with the sign stealing that the Red Sox were doing. And maybe the Red Sox believe, hey, this guy knows what we were doing. Maybe the Red Sox know that Mookie Betts is a good ball player, but maybe he's not going to be as great like an MVP like he was a couple of years ago when we were doing stuff, cheating stuff. And maybe he was like, hey, we don't want to spend the money on this. The athletic ability of Mookie Betts may come down because of the cheating, if that's the case. This is speculation, but why would you give up so much? And what do you get back in return, the Boston Red Sox? You get a lot of young talent, unproven talent. You're in rebuild mode again. Now, the Red Sox have spent a lot of money, and they were going to be facing a lot more big contracts, and they got more contracts to deal with. My sense is they're tearing it up. They're blowing this up now. If Mookie Betts is now a Dodger, he's a Dodger. And they're blowing up the Red Sox. They're getting rid of people. Maybe these are players that knew about their cheating. Or is it about their money, which was huge problem. But here's the trade. There's more players involved. Mookie Betts joins the the Dodgers. Cody Bellinger, the current MVP of the National League, and you have a former MVP from 2 years ago in the same outfield now. A lefty-righty in the batting order. A 1-2 punch. They got younger. They got a nice core young of ball players in LA now. Now, Mookie Betts has 1 year left on his contract. Dodgers feel they'll be able to sign him. They're going to be actually trading off other players, not re-signing players, to free up more money to keep a guy like Mookie Betts and Cody Bellinger in the batting order. They also get David Price, who, for the Red Sox, had one magical moment in the playoffs when he was a disaster in postseason in his career, found something in the World Series to help the Red Sox win a World Series 2 years ago. But arm problems, body problems, health issues, a lot of innings pitched. David Price probably is more on the back end of his career more than ever before. This was a dump salary, a dump contract on the Dodgers. Now, the Dodgers are only going to take half of his money. The Red Sox still have to eat a half of that portion of his contract. Okay? There's $96 million left on Price's contract. Split down in the middle. Red Sox take one half. The Dodgers take on the other half. So the Dodgers pick up not only that, they pick up a couple of young arms that are unproven that they can develop, hard-throwing minor leaguer guys, young guys. But to the Dodgers and for the Twins, who are now the third team in this deal, they get Alex Verdugo, I should say, and Gretoro. They got two very highly scouted, highly credible young baseball talent, the Boston Red Sox. That's via through the Minnesota's involvement in the trade. Minnesota gets Kenta Maeda, a right-hander pitcher who has done an adequate, better than average job during the regular season for the Red Sox, for the Dodgers, has pitched well in postseason coming out of the bullpen. He was very effective. He's like a fourth, maybe third starter on that Red Sox pitching staff right now. So the Red Sox do get a young pitcher who has a lot of experience, a decent contract, take on two very young, cheap minor league ball players who are very talented, but you have to develop them. And there's no guarantee. No guarantee. So the Red Sox are taking a big risk, or they know what they're doing, and there's reasons why other than money, I believe. I believe there's more to it. Will the Red Sox ever regain and get back to the top? They have in the past turned it around quickly to win championships. Can they do it again this route? Do they have great young talent? Can they sign the ball players they have on that roster who are going to ask for big contracts? Still, JD Martinez needs to be signed, right? Or he needs to remain a Red Sox. Right? Xander, their shortstop. I mean, there's a big deal in Boston. And how much talent is there in their pitching staff? Chris Sale is also like a David Price, falling apart, the body breakdown. He's not the same pitcher. The Red Sox know. And don't be surprised if guys like Chris Sale gets traded to somebody that needs a pitcher late in the season. Don't be surprised that the Red Sox start to sell off all their star power, regroup, rebuild, and see where they go from there. Boston, you're not going to like this. You're going to hold your breath and hope for the best. But your run is done. It's done. It'd be shocking if they turn this around within a year or two. Shocking. For the Dodgers, you beef up your batting order. You get more power. You got more speed. You get excellent defense with Mookie Betts and Bellinger. You have power and clutch hitting and Justin Turner. You have a really good first baseman. You got a really good catcher. Or you have a good rotation. But for the Dodgers itself, their bullpen still needs to be taken care of. There's still not a lot of trust in that bullpen, even with Jansen coming out of the bullpen as your closer. They still have to take care of that. They can hit all they want. But in October, if they can still get there, have issues. I think the Dodgers, though, got the better part of this deal. The better part of this deal. They truly got an MVP for nothing. When you say nothing, well, they gave up a lot of young talent. Unproven young talent. We've seen a lot of unproven young talent that is so good, and we talk about it. They get drafted. We get excited for them, and they never pan out. It's very difficult in the game of baseball to project that. So in the moment, in the Dodger now moment, they got an MVP on their roster. They got two MVPs. They got guys who know how to play ball. They have the now moment, and they are desperate for a World Series championship. Not in 1988. And they're looking to get back on top. The Dodgers. I don't know how they got away with this trade, man. It's amazing. Amazing. A third team involved. And I would say that the Twins have up their roster and their pitching staff tremendously. The Minnesota Twins are going to win their division. They're not a wild card team. They are winning their division. And if things go well overall for them, they're going to challenge the Yankees and the Rays for the right to get to the World Series. I think Tampa and the Yankees and Minnesota are the top three teams to get to the World Series representing the American League. Those are my three teams right now. Not the Houston Astros. I'd be surprised they come out of this season alive. I think there's way too much to deal with for the Astros. Way too much. If they do, my goodness, baseball, baseball, big question mark, right? All right. I want to say hi to some people. I appreciate you popping on. Any comments about this itself? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I gotta say hi to some people. I say Jacqueline, Todd, we got Sly, we have Bradley, we got Alex, we got Joseph, we got Jessica, we have is that Avila? Avila says Mookie wants the money. Some teams like the Pods and the Phillies are gonna offer him $350 million contracts. So what Avila is saying is that after 1 year, the Dodgers got Mookie Betts for 1 year under contract. Then the following year, after next season, Mookie Betts is a free agent, and he's going to ask for huge money. If he has a great year and he has a Mookie Betts season, he's going to ask for, like he said, or like Avila said, $350 million contract. Who wants to pay for that? Can the Dodgers afford that? Knowing down the road they got to take care of Bueller, their pitcher, the young pitcher who's playing under a really cheap contract. Cody Bellinger's contract was going to come up. Like, there are some big contracts the Dodgers got to deal with. Is Mookie Betts a 1-year rental for the Dodgers? The Dodgers and people say no. They feel they can re-sign him. They got a lot of money. They're willing to pay the tax part of it too. Very interesting what's going to go on for the Dodgers the next couple of years. But they've been selling out and trying so hard for the last decade and falling short. Now they got an MVP and Mookie Betts on their roster. A lot of excitement in Dodgerland again. You know, a lot of excitement. I still am concerned with their pitching staff. I don't trust David Price in the long term. I don't know if David Price is going to be other than average. And is he healthy? Or do the Dodgers trade him by the trade deadline if he's not as good as he is? If David Price is David Price of old or the young David Price, they really made out on this deal. But we'll see what happens. We'll see if David Price can get healthy and get back to form. I highly doubt it. He is an older pitcher with a lot of innings pitched, a lot of balls thrown. The body's breaking down, and it's very difficult to maintain that as a pitcher. And he doesn't have a lot of luck. This is beautiful, the Dodgers. You have Kershaw, historically doesn't not do well, play well, pitch well in playoffs in baseball. Great regular season Kershaw, Cy Young Kershaw. Now you got another one, David Price, who carries that same tag. Historically speaking, David Price struggles in postseason. Dodgers make the playoffs, and you have these guys pitching. A lot of people are going to question and have doubts about them in those games, in those moments. So we got to think about the Dodgers overall. Do we just hand them the National League championship? Do we just hand the Dodgers the World Series? No. No. It helps them. I mean, just to get an MVP baseball player on your roster is fabulous. But they got a lot of holes still in that pitching staff, I believe. I don't believe they have a solid rotation, especially for postseason. And I don't believe the Dodgers have a bullpen still that has to upgrade itself. Now, I believe they'll continue to beef up and find ball players. More comments coming in about baseball, making some big news last night with the big trade of the Dodgers trading and getting Mookie Betts, the former MVP, and David Price. The Minnesota Twins gobble up a couple of ball players that are young and a nice pitcher in Maeda, who is an average to above average pitcher who can be a good 4 pitcher in your rotation, if not a third one. But he's going to be more like a 4 in Minnesota, okay? Or even in the bullpen, playoff time. Keep an eye on that. All right, more comments. Michael Butler in the house, Joe in the house, Wilson in the house. Gotcha. Todd, Dodgers will have to rely on their offense. At this point, they do. The Dodgers will have to rely on their offense at this point. Their pitching is going to be fine during the regular season. When you beat up on below average teams and average teams and you milk your record and you get more wins, and you fatten up that way. But when it comes to the better teams and postseason, when everything gets scrutinized and is more of a detailed part of the game, I think that's when the Dodgers better be prepared and better ready for their playoff run. That bullpen needs help. It does. It needs a lot of help. And that rotation, even though that's Bueller, they got Kershaw and David Price. It looks beautiful on paper. But Kershaw is not the same pitcher. He doesn't throw mid-90s. He's low 90s at best, who throws slower and slower so his 88 to 90 mile per hour fastball can look faster. Now, does he find the youth of something this season? If he does, I'm going to question it. Why is he all of a sudden throwing 95 again? So we got to watch Kershaw and him staying healthy. He doesn't stay healthy. And David Price doesn't stay healthy. This can all blow up on the Dodgers because then pitching-wise, they don't have depth. Now, they believe they have young pitchers. They believe they have young pitchers coming in. A lot of them have had a lot of experience out of the bullpen, some spot starting, but they never really have blown anybody away. But in time, they can develop better. Maybe this is the year they shine. Urias, who is supposed to be the hot lefty pitcher, still hasn't found his place in that Dodger rotation like he was supposed to a couple of years ago. It's like make it or break it for him. Another young arm, young talent. But he's young, he's experienced, he's been through a lot, and they're going to work with him. Big Red, their big right-hand pitcher, he's just a good talent that needs more repetition, more innings pitched at the major league level. But you're relying on questionable health of pitchers and young pitchers who have yet to be proven anything at the major league level other than they somewhat belong. That's about it. All right. More talk about this in a little bit later on this week. But baseball, big news. Pete Rose wants back. The big trade last night. Now let's get into something else. Let's shift gears. Oh, one more news here. Chris Bryant of the Chicago Cubs is available to be traded. This is an MVP guy, world champion, who was at one point the love of Chicago, is now on his way out, supposedly, through a trade. Most likely, they're saying to Philadelphia, the Phillies. Let's see what happens to Chris Bryant, a third baseman who, healthy, is a great baseball player. MVP. He's young. Look an eye on that one. Also, the Dodgers also trade away Jock Peterson, their right fielder, center fielder, multiple position guy who hits for power. He's a 250 lifetime hitter. Very good against right-hand pitching. He is very good. They trade him down the road, down the I-5 to Anaheim, to the Los Angeles Angels. So Jock Peterson is now a Los Angeles Angels player, along with Trout, Pujols, and that Angels team that looks like it's getting primed to make a run in 2020. The Angels got a couple of arms. They got a couple of players now. Their offseason is looking a lot better. Very interesting trade. It was a dump position situation because the Dodgers have no room on the roster for Jock now because Jock Peterson would not have any playing time with Mookie Betts now in a Los Angeles Dodger. So Peterson, again, another lovable Dodger in LA, has moved on. They traded him away. Those are another big moves around baseball yesterday. It was very active. Get prepared for baseball, more activity with trades and free agency as we get closer and closer to spring training, pitchers and catchers in a couple of weeks, and baseball rosters needing to get filled up still. There's a lot of good talent that is still out there as free agents, and trades are still in the mix. Be ready. Baseball taking center stage now over the lackluster NBA and the NHL that still cannot find its groove. A great game. Hockey deserves more exposure, but it just doesn't grab the audience the way baseball does in football. We'll get into that later on, too, this week. I have some great numbers about all the sports and why baseball and football are the best, most watched sports in the world. Yes, it is. All right, now let's shift gears. Let's shift gears here a little bit, okay? Football. Let's talk some football. All right. So the Kansas City Chiefs win the Super Bowl. And immediately we get a lot of controversial quotes and tweets and things and people making comments. Kansas City Chiefs play in Missouri, but it's part of a metropolitan area of Kansas City. Kansas City is a big geographic area that covers in Missouri and Kansas. Kansas and Missouri metropolitan area is Kansas City. And going back in history and how it was divided geographically, and there is political reasons behind it and some dislike about certain politics that go way back, why that dividing line was there between the two. But Kansas City is a group of metropolitan cities in the surrounding area. So Kansas City, Missouri fans and Kansas City, Kansas fans are Kansas City Chiefs fans. Understand that. They're only just, they're not far apart. They're right there, the metropolitan area. It's like if you live in LA, think about the surrounding towns and cities around you within the 30-mile radius, right? Think about Phoenix. You got Glendale, Scottsdale, Mesa, Gilbert. Think about that. But there's a divide, and somehow there's a state line in between them now, right? So you got to put that in perspective, that Kansas City is, well, I can go down to Kentucky, and Kentucky fans are Cincinnati Reds fans and Cincinnati Bengal fans. So when you get close to the border, like in Illinois, in Missouri, again, there are a lot of Illinois people who are St. Louis Cardinal fans in baseball. They're just across the river. They're just across the river in Illinois. So when you get to the dividing state line, you put that in perspective. And why is Kansas City so confusing? Because there is a Kansas City, Kansas, and a Kansas City, Missouri, and they are related. They're all connected. But now, here's the rest of the story. There are 3 other professional football teams in the NFL that have a name that doesn't relate to their state. People in Kansas and people in Missouri claim Kansas City Chiefs as their team. Get that straight. In New York, the once New York Giants and New York Jets who played in Yankee Stadium and Shea Stadium play in New Jersey and have been playing in New Jersey, another state divided by a river, right? But still call themselves New York Giants and Jets. But there's no uproar about the Kansas City, Kansas, and the Kansas City, Missouri issue. The Washington Redskins, the name Washington, it's not even in D.C. It's not even in the District of Columbia. It is in Landover, Maryland, the Washington Redskins. But nobody is going nuts over that one. Put this in perspective, folks. As sports fans, nobody cares. But for some reason, following the Super Bowl Chiefs championship win, it became an issue. And I'm going, why is it a big deal? The San Francisco 49ers, they do play in California, but their city is Santa Clara. The Dallas Cowboys, they play in Arlington, Texas, 30 minutes from Dallas. It's not Dallas. They're in Arlington. They're not the Arlington Cowboys. It's not the Santa Clara 49ers. It's not the New Jersey Giants and the New Jersey Jets and the Maryland Redskins. Now you can go as far as saying, well, the Mets play in Queens and the Yankees play in the Bronx, but they're called New York. Okay. But Tampa, the Tampa Rays, they do not play in Tampa. They're nowhere, they're not even near Tampa. They're across the bay, across the Bay Bridge, all the way down to the coastal line of Florida's west coast in the Gulf called St. Petersburg. They're right there on the water, man. They're not called the St. Pete Rays. Let's get back to New York. Major League Soccer. The Red Bulls, the New York Red Bulls play in New Jersey. But nobody, people talk about it. But why was the Kansas City Chiefs thing such a big deal? Not a big deal. People get confused on it. People really didn't know exactly everything about that. I think we learned something. I think we should be more positive of the fact that we learned more about it. Kansas City, Kansas are Kansas City Chiefs fans. Kansas City, Missouri are also Kansas City Chiefs fans. Metropolitan New York, Metropolitan San Francisco, Metropolitan Dallas, Metropolitan Tampa all have teams with this odd name statement attached to them. City, state, location. Get over it. Not a big deal. Now, if you're living in those areas and you're from Santa Clara or you're from Arlington, do you really care? Do you care in New York? A lot of people did care when the Jets and the Giants moved to New Jersey to play their home games. A lot of people did and still do to this day. Now they built a huge, beautiful stadium. There's nowhere they're leaving. Now, the Meadowlands in New York, or New Jersey, I should say, is like a stone throw, skipping rock across the river to New York City. You can see the skyline of Manhattan. So, in a lot of ways, nobody really, it's still considered like that area is still considered the New York metropolitan area. It's also called the tri state area, which Connecticut, New Jersey, and New York all come together basically by a bridge, by land, really by bridge, but they're all so close. It's a unique part of the country. There's a lot of areas in the East Coast that have a uniqueness of it. Rhode Island and the Massachusetts area, the New England area have their own integral part. Okay? So you got to look at the geographic of it all. Now, I would say this. When the Arizona Cardinals showed up to Arizona, they were called the Phoenix Cardinals, but they didn't play in Phoenix. They played in Tempe, Arizona. Then they moved to Glendale. But they had a plan, and they changed their name to the Arizona Cardinals to embody the entire state. They knew it wasn't right. They knew it just wasn't clicking, and they had to engulf the entire state to own that right, to give everybody understanding that you belong in Tucson. This is your team. In Flagstaff, this is your team. On the reservations, this is your team. We are called the Arizona Cardinals. But prior to that, they were called Phoenix Cardinals, playing in Tempe. I still have a t-shirt from 1988 that said the Cardinals play on Tempe turf. The city of Tempe wanted to make sure that they were in Tempe, playing at Sun Devil Stadium, okay? Put that in perspective, folks. Relax. It's not a big deal. Learning about geographics, learning about and getting educated about things like that is good. That's the positive thing about it. I think more people now have an understanding about Kansas City itself. Yes, they play in Missouri, but do not exclude or eliminate anybody in the metropolitan area of Kansas City. the Kansas City metropolitan area. How about Minnesota? The Minneapolis area. Okay? You got St. Paul, big, old part of the area, the older part of Minneapolis. And then you across the lake in that area right there, the Twin Cities is Minnesota. Okay? You got Minnesota and you got St. Paul there, right? I mean, the state of Minnesota. You have Minneapolis and you have St. Paul. Two beautiful places. One very old, authentic, one very new and posh in Minneapolis. And we call them the Twin Cities. But the names of the teams are called Minnesota. They're not called Minneapolis. Now, they used to call the Minneapolis Lakers. Did you know that the Lakers were Minneapolis? That's why the name Lakers is the like. There's if you go to a lake in LA anywhere, it's probably dried up because there are problems with water. There's the lakes, and in Minneapolis, they're lakes. You get it? So the Minneapolis Lakes. That's then when they moved out, everything changed. You got the Stars in hockey. You got the Twins. You got the basketball team. You got the Vikings. Okay. So put that in perspective too. There's a lot of changes. I think teams are going more if they have the opportunity to embody the state name to avoid all this crap. Yes, you may play in Santa Clara, but you're not really the San Francisco 49ers, but you do play in a metropolitan area called San Francisco. So how do you label all this? I think this is a very good topic. It's not only sports related, it's geographically related. Educational wise, I think it's a good topic. And sports has a way to doing this. Here we go again, right? It always finds a way to educate us, even through debate, argument, or confusion, right? All right, more comments coming in. I appreciate it. We got Noreen in the house. We got Brendan Hayes in the house. We got, is that Bert? Hey, Bert and Lyle and Jesse and Victoria and Diana in the house. I appreciate all of that. Todd says, love the Twin Cities, love the airport, one of my favorite places. So, yeah, there you go, Todd. Just put those things in perspective. I mean, there are a lot of teams that move out. A lot of teams that move out. Okay? If the Arizona Coyotes, the Coyotes, as I like to call them, play in Glendale, they weren't really the Phoenix Coyotes. And then they changed their name not too long ago to the Arizona Coyotes. Because, again, embody the state. It doesn't make sense to playing in another city in the metropolitan area of Phoenix. It doesn't make sense. It divides people. But when you put the state name attached to your team name, it embodies everybody. It does help marketing-wise. But it also eliminates the controversy and the debate. Now, if they move somewhere else in the state of Arizona because of a better financial stadium situation, you're fine because it doesn't matter where you go. You got the Arizona Coyotes named to you, the Arizona Coyotes, not the Phoenix Coyotes who play in Tempe or Scottsdale. They almost played in Scottsdale. Remember that. They were about to build the arena in Scottsdale off of, I think it was McDowell and Scottsdale Road. Okay? It was set to go. Now the natives and the reservation are trying to lure them in somehow. They're always trying to grab a team in there. Okay? So you have this. Okay? You have multiple teams around the country who play in different cities but claim state name or claim another city's name of a metropolitan area. The New York Giants, New York Jets play in New Jersey, but they're claiming the metropolitan New York area. And traditional wise, it's tradition. Okay? That's why. I hope you understand that. Kansas City, the metropolitan area, you have a Super Bowl champion in your Chiefs. You all deserve that celebration today. That celebration's about to start in about 5 minutes, the big parade. Or did it start already? I think it's 12 o'clock Eastern time, so I believe it starts in 5 minutes, their Super Bowl celebration parade in Kansas City. Yes, it's going to be in Missouri side, but everybody in the metropolitan area will be there. And the Chiefs deserved it. They had a they had the greatest one of the greatest fourth quarters of Super Bowl history. Complete dominance. It'll go down like that. Who had the greatest fourth quarter? The Chiefs will be now in that conversation. There you have it, folks. All right. More news around the NFL before we move on and say goodbye with a few minutes to go. News around the NFL. The New York Jets running back Le'Veon Bell says the relationship with him and head coach Adam Gase is blown out of proportion. Sounds like there's a lot more good relations going on there other than what the media wants to throw at you. The Arizona Cardinals had ties or conversations or at least rumors about Taysom Hill, the Saints backup, swingman, utility guy, football player that people seem to love without knowing enough about him on the field other than a few highlights. But the Arizona Cardinals went out yesterday and signed the CFL, Canadian Football League quarterback champion, to a contract, squashing maybe any rumors about Taysom Hill. Now it makes you wonder if the Cardinals are looking at him as a backup or the third string. Going to compete for backup role. Going to compete for the backup role for the Arizona Cardinals. A good story. It's going to be a story during the offseason and into the summer watching the newest member of the Arizona Cardinals. All right. There's your really only big news around the NFL other than what we talked about with the Super Bowl. Baseball news, once again, Dodgers land Mookie Betts, David Price from the Red Sox. They trade away the Dodgers, some minor league prospects, good ones. The Red Sox just kind of gobble up young, cheap talent that has a potential to be good, but unproven. So they basically gave away Mookie Betts, an MVP guy. Gave him away. The Angels trade for Jock Peterson because the Dodgers had no room on their roster with Mookie Betts. The Dodgers traded away another contract to free up another roster spot in their rotation by trading away Kenta Maeda to the Minnesota Twins. Now the Twins have a more depth pitching staff in Minnesota. The Twins are going to be for real this year. If they can hit the way they hit last year, now having more pitching depth, they're going to be a World Series contender. Okay? Right now, I have to say they're a contender. They have to be. All right. Now, with that all being said and done, we don't know who's winning the World Series. We can just project, and we'll have all the projections and all the predictions with baseball, all the divisions in the next few weeks. Let things play out. We need to find out if there's more free agent signings. A more trade or two is going to happen between now and opening day, maybe even after opening day, like last season where a lot of free agents did not get signed until later in the season. So we got a lot of baseball roster changes happening between now and probably June, the way things have looked in the last couple of years in baseball. But I'm excited. Baseball is here. It's February. Pitchers and catchers starting in a couple of weeks. If you love spring training baseball, get down to Florida. Get over to Arizona. The weather will be nice and warm and fun and a big party scene. It's just to hang out and see the future and just have a good time. I'm not a big spring training guy. I don't go to spring training games, especially when you live in a city that has a Major League Baseball team. I'd rather spend my time and money at a regular season game when it really matters. I can follow it all on the internet. I can follow it all the spring training games that way. It's just not that big of a deal. Unless you want to go party and have a good time and hang out in the sunshine, that's okay. I'm not against that. But as a sports fan, I'm going to the games to watch the ball game. So that's my take. All right. I got to get out of here on this Wednesday, a hump day. I appreciate it. Baseball's back. Sorry, basketball. You still haven't found your groove. You're still looking and searching. Your biggest story is an unfortunate story of Kobe Bryant. Other than that, nobody is paying attention to the NBA. ESPN's ratings are down. Their subscription for ESPN is 4% lower. They're struggling, and they have a basketball rights to broadcast basketball games. Now you know why ESPN struggles, because they have the NBA. Nobody is really paying attention. The NBA and the NHL are now fighting for what? Recognition. But the NHL has always been fighting for that. Always. If somehow they can get themselves out in front and overtake the NBA, it's very possible. It's there for the taking. The NBA has been punched around. They're staggering for the last few years, and there's no bell saving them. And ESPN's ratings going down, not only on the TV ratings, but on the subscriptions to their websites are all down. Nobody is paying attention. And the NBA is a big part of the ESPN programming. Huge part. That's all they talk about. That's all they have. And that's a great indication how bad it is that the NBA game, nobody's paying attention. It took Kobe Bryant's death to talk about the NBA, to be in the front. It was never like that. It was never like that. And we'll talk more about that this week as we get more into other sports, as football is bye-bye for now. But we'll talk about the existence of the NBA and the NHL. And we'll talk about Major League Baseball, how it's still one of the most watched games, the most popular game in all sports other than the NFL. I have numbers for you. I have legitimate numbers for you why baseball is still very much a powerful part of our sports entertainment. And globally, it's now growing because they're expanding. Not only in Japan, in London, in Mexico, and where else they're going with this. It's big. Baseball knows what they have, and they're going for it. We'll talk about all that this week. Stay tuned. But for now, for this hump day, I want to say thank you for popping in. Thank you for Martin. You do agree. I appreciate it. No real games in spring training. Just a waste of my money. But have a great day. Have a great hump day for you on YouTube and everybody on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, on right here on globalsportsbroadcastingnetwork.com, the live streaming. I appreciate you joining me here on Hanna Time. I'm your host, Cornelius Brad Hanna, on a cold Wednesday in February. Let's warm up, get your hump on, whatever you're doing and how you want to play it. But let's get to the weekend safely, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Hanna Time, guys. All right, guys, we'll talk to you soon. Love you guys. Mwah. Keep loving your heart. Keep loving your heart. All right, we'll talk to you. Enjoy your hump day. I love it. All right, guys. YouTube, thank you guys for popping in. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you also. Have a good one, guys. Thank you.